This display comes to you from the Rowan Doll Society, who meet once a month in Salisbury, North Carolina, and from the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures, located in Spencer, North Carolina. The Piedmont of North Carolina has a rich past, whose stories need to be discovered and told. The first Europeans who settled in the area risked their lives to journey to the Piedmont during the first part of the 18th century. The area had been home for 8,000 years to several groups of Native American Indians, including the Guattari and Sapona tribes. Eventually, these tribes merged to become the Catawbas and settled in upper South Carolina. They left behind paths that were originally used for hunting and trading. Over time, these paths became a road system of travel by pioneers who used what they called the Great Wagon Road from Pennsylvania to North Carolina in search of new homelands. They found conditions ripe for planting in the mostly unoccupied area of central North Carolina. From the banks of the Yadkin River, the land had rich soil, forests, granite supplies, and precious water. A steady influx of English, Scotch-Irish, and German immigrants arrived in the mid-1700s and settled in what is now called Rowan County. A courthouse was built first, and the town of Salisbury, named after Salisbury, England, grew around it. What follows next is a description of many of the people and events that contributed to the growth and often the notoriety of the central Piedmont area. Using Miss Rowan as our guide, we will travel through history from the migration of the Great Wagon Road to contemporary times. Who is Miss Rowan? Miss Rowan is a special bisque doll that wears a costume copied from a dress currently housed in one of our local museums in historic Salisbury, North Carolina. The original dress was actually worn to a ball in honor of George Washington's Southern tour in 1791, when he visited Salisbury. According to written record, a ball was held in the President's honor at the Hughes Hotel. Mrs. Lewis Beard was among the guests listed. The handmade dress she wore that night to the ball was passed down through her family until a descendant donated it to the Rowan Museum, where it is displayed today. Why would George Washington have visited a small town like Salisbury in 1791? It was the county seat and also the westernmost settled area of the newly formed states. In those days, western North Carolina was the wild, wild west. Daniel Boone came to Rowan County with his family in 1759 as a 16-year-old youth. The family settled near the Yadkin River, about 12 miles from Salisbury. He married Rebecca Bryan, a neighbor in Yadkin, but never stayed long in any place. He was given the task to explore Kentucky, which was wilderness at that time, and that assignment was documented at the old courthouse, which stood at the intersection of Main and Innis Streets in Salisbury. Daniel and Rebecca had 8 children during their long marriage. He is best known as a hunter, explorer, and fur trader. Andrew Jackson, our 7th president, was born near the North Carolina-South Carolina border, near Waxhaw, in 1767. He studied law in Salisbury at the age of 17, and according to Jackson himself, he enjoyed the fun of being a student. During his early years in Salisbury, Jackson was described as the most roaring, rollicking, game-cocking, horse-racing, card-playing, mischievous fellow that ever lived in Salisbury. According to records, Andrew Jackson went to the inaugural ball celebrated in Salisbury for the newly elected President George Washington in 1791. Jackson caused quite a stir because he brought some ladies of the evening as his guests. Besides being a lawyer, a statesman, and a president, he was a soldier. He went on to be a hero in the War of 1812 and earned the nickname Old Hickory by being as tough as hickory wood. He had an iron will and the ability to inspire men to deeds beyond their strength. After practicing law, he was elected president in 1829 and served 8 years. Old Hickory died in 1845 at the age of 78. Elizabeth Maxwell Steele, the greatest woman patriot America has ever known. The time is 1781. During the Revolutionary War, General Nathanael Greene took shelter in Salisbury and stayed at an inn owned by Elizabeth Maxwell Steele and her husband. During a conversation, General Greene conveyed that his troops did not have enough food or supplies and would be captured by the British. Mrs. Steele reportedly gave the general 3 bags of gold, all her savings, to be used for the war effort. The kindness and generosity that was expressed by Mrs. Steele that day has been said to have changed history. General Greene was able to direct his small army by boat across the Yadkin River. The British followed on foot to Guilford, where the two armies met in a fierce battle at the Guilford Courthouse in March of 1781. What was left of the British army fled north to Virginia and surrendered at the Battle of Yorktown in October 1781, resulting in American independence. Had not Elizabeth Maxwell Steele given money to General Greene in 1781, it is possible that the British may have won the Revolution. Let's travel forward to the mid-late 1800s. 1879, J. C. Price and Livingstone College. The founder and first president of Rowan County's Livingstone College was Dr. Joseph Charles Price, born a free man in 1854 in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Price was valedictorian of his class and prepared for ministry in the AME Zion Church. He was a scholar and a powerful preacher and traveled to raise money to found a denominational college. Under his guidance, Livingstone College was started by Bishop James W. Hood and Bishop T. Lomax. Price was the president of Livingstone College, which was chartered to train religious leaders in 1885, until his death in 1893 at age 39. The college continues into the 21st century and has produced a seminary that now runs independently from the college. Gold Hill. Many people know that gold was discovered in 1799 in Cabarrus County at the farm of John Reed. It is known as the Reed Gold Mine. In 1842, a large vein of gold was discovered in the eastern part of Rowan County. The mining camp became a thriving town of Gold Hill, with $3 million of gold taken from the area of about 3.5 square miles. Those 19th century mines were the richest and most productive gold mines east of the Mississippi River. In its heyday, Gold Hill had 23 mines and 3,000 people, many more than the Charlotte, North Carolina area. The Civil War and the California Gold Rush interrupted the gold mining, and the mines ultimately closed in 1907. Gold Hill is currently a small historic village. Major John Mertz was billed as one of Salisbury's biggest and smallest celebrities. At 46 inches tall and 60 pounds, John Mertz made his name as a circus midget in the heyday of the big tops. Originally from Austria-Hungary, he came to America and toured with several circus companies in the latter half of the 19th century. He met and married his wife, Maria Nail of Davie County, North Carolina, who was 36 inches tall and also a circus performer. She was the smallest woman in the world. They were married in a splashy circus wedding that was a huge event. They spent their off-season in Salisbury, and when they retired, they moved to Salisbury permanently to live until she died in 1920 and he died in 1938. They are buried in a local cemetery. Everybody loves a circus. From 1910 to 1919, the Sparks Brothers Circus called Salisbury home for the winter. John Sparks founded the circus and decided to bring it to the area because of the mild winter weather, railroad lines, and large fairgrounds. Even after it stopped wintering in Salisbury, the circus returned for shows. Its last performance in Salisbury was in 1947, when it was owned by Ringling Brothers. Samuel Spencer was an American civil engineer, businessman, and railroad executive born in 1847. He spent his career with railroads and eventually became president of 6 railroad companies and was a director of at least 10 railroads. He was unfortunately killed in a train wreck in Virginia in 1906, but is known as the father of the Southern Railway system. After his untimely death, 30,000 Southern Railway employees contributed money to pay for a bronze statue of Spencer by sculptor Daniel Chester French, who is also the sculptor of the Abraham Lincoln statue in Washington, D.C. The bronze statue of Spencer is now located in Atlanta's Terminal Station. The town of Spencer, North Carolina, near Salisbury, incorporated in 1905, is named in his honor. The Transportation Museum is located in Spencer, North Carolina. The North Carolina Transportation Museum is located on the site of what was once Southern Railway Company's largest steam locomotive servicing facility. J.P. Morgan, Southern's owner, chose the site in Spencer because of its location midway between the railroad's major terminal points of Washington, D.C. and Atlanta. Construction began in 1896, and the area was named in honor of the first president of the Southern Railway, Samuel Spencer. The yard remained open until the late 1970s. In the late 70s, a portion of the land was donated and the Transportation Museum was born. Since then, thousands of visitors have come to see more than $2 million in transportation artifacts that include trains, airplanes, trolley cars, wagons, and automobiles. Elizabeth Dole. Elizabeth Hanford Dole grew up in Salisbury as Liddy Hanford. She went on to Duke University and graduated with a political science degree. Ultimately, she attended Harvard and got a law degree, which she took to Washington, D.C. in the Nixon era. She married Robert Dole in 1975. She was head of the American Red Cross, but resigned to run for president. Though not elected President of the United States, she went on to be a state senator from North Carolina. She and her husband continue to live in Washington, D.C. The Hanford Dole Elementary School is named for her and is located in the Rowan County school system. We hope that you have enjoyed Miss Rowan's stories about our area of North Carolina. She is able to tell many more tales from the past and is very happy when you visit her at the North Carolina Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures in Spencer, North Carolina.